Britain's conversation. Ian Dale. Tweet at LBC.
22 minutes past 9 on LBC. So Rob was saying hatred, emotion overriding your intellect, and tribalism, the three core tenets of becoming a terrorist. Whether it's a far-right extremist, whether it's an Islamist terrorist, I think all of those things are apply, don't they? Let's go to Abbas, who's in Redbridge. Hello, Abbas. Long time no speak.
Hi there. Hi there. Good evening. Thanks for taking my call. I think with dealing with any issue, you have to look at the cause to really try to tackle the effects. And I think, unfortunately, we have a situation now whereby people are using freedom of speech and freedom of expression, the freedom to ridicule, as a tool to actually create disharmony in society. And I'm not saying that we should curb freedom of speech or suddenly become a communist country or whatever and restrict people from being able to say things. But if you've got the leader of the of UKIP saying things like Islam is a death cult, or you've got people like Trump who are saying Islam hates us, there's going to be an effect for such rhetoric, and that's going to permeate through society, and it's going to create ill feeling, distrust, and it's going to, unfortunately snowball into what we're seeing today, where hatred just becomes stronger and stronger. There's a lot of studies done on this as well. If you look at, for example, Professor Robert Pave at the University of Chicago, or you look at Scott Atran, he's done a lot of work on extremism and where it actually comes from, how it stems, what the foundational, the catalysts are that create this type of behavior. And your last caller actually alluded to some of those that actually have been picked up in these studies. But I also find that we're in a situation now where people have a very polarized view about how to analyze these things. You've got some people who are saying these people are all mentally ill, and in fact, they're not. And then you've got some people who are saying actually mental illness has nothing to do with it, when in fact, analytically and empirically, sometimes it does. So there's obviously there's some middle ground that we all need to sort of come to, rather than have this very polarized view of things. I think also, I'm not going to bash the media and say it's all the media's fault, because I think that would be a crazy thing to say. But I think the media does have a responsibility as well, being accurate, how they present stories, when religion is important in a particular story, and perhaps when religion isn't important, and being responsible of how they present stories. You alluded on the story of Rotherham, and I accept that. There was a statistic, yes, 83% of paedophile gangs in Rotherham happen to be Pakistani Muslim men. I have no problem with the media reporting such stories, but if you're going to report that story, then you have to also report the story where paedophile rings are 100% white. Now, that doesn't mean to say that all white people are paedophiles or all brown people are paedophiles, but if you're going to present one story in one way, and we have lots of talk shows talking about it, quite rightly so, lots of analysis going on, quite rightly so, but then you've got clinical psychologists like Ella Cockbain who looked at the report and said, look, this is a subset of a subset of a subset, and you're just showing that subset, and it's actually giving an opinion or painting an impression to people how somehow paedophilia per se is disproportionately linked to this particular community. And it's precisely these type of things that and I'm not for 1 second saying that we should excuse it or hide it or conceal it or not talk about it. If it's a story, it's there, it's got to be spoken about. But if you have a disparity in the way that you report things, the way that you present things, what you get is that you get a society that's ill-informed. And then when this type of stuff is simply regurgitated out within social media, this is the effect of the very cause that I've just sort of spoken to you about.
And you, all of that incredibly eloquent, and thank you very much for saying it, because I think you make a lot of really good points. I think, again, I don't want to get stuck on the grooming gang thing, because we have talked about that a lot, but only today, somebody tweeted me saying, why aren't you covering the fact that 4 British Pakistani men were sentenced in Huddersfield for a grooming gang offence? Well, the reason I didn't was because I didn't know about it. I hadn't seen it on any news report, so we didn't include it. I mentioned it earlier, but you're either accused of over-covering something or not giving it enough attention. You can never actually get it right, so you try your best to do so. And I do think that there is a legitimate accusation that some people throw at the media saying, well, you haven't really taken far-right extremism seriously enough over the last few years, and it is something that needs to be discussed, which is kind of why we're doing what we're doing now.
Sure. No, and I commend you for that, really. And I think the important thing here is that we've really got to fundamentally, rewire our brain, and we've got to realise that most people are decent, honest, and just people, and they're looking just to, feed their families, educate their kids, and hopefully do best for England, because we all live here. As a Muslim, my parents came here in the 50s from India. I was born here. But as a Muslim, I feel part of this society. I want this society to flourish, because that means I flourish, my children flourish. And that's how we need to see people, rather than have this...
Because you are a regular person. You have the same aspirations as anybody else. But I want you to tell me what you think of this text, because I've been debating whether to read this out, but I'm going to, because I think you'll have an answer for it. Jay says, we have Muslim attacks all the time, and perhaps the far right are fed up with it, and it's now time for payback. I'm not saying it's time for payback, but you can push human beings so far before attacks like this happen. Now, there'll be a lot of people that think that way. How do you respond to that?
Well, first of all, I'm really saddened that people would think like that, and they need to reflect on those words that they've just said, because this is precisely what these nutcases who say that they're part of my faith, doing it for my faith. It's exactly what they say. They say, look, we're attacking, and this is widely analysed by Professor Robert Pape and by Scott Aitken. They've said, and they've done thousands of interviews of extremists, of their families, of their imams, of their local mosque, and what they've actually realised is that these extremists, the very catalyst often is that these Europeans, these Americans, they've gone and they've bombed our countries, they've killed our kids, they've killed 1 million Iraqi civilians, and it's time for payback. We need to bomb these people and kill these people. And it's precisely those excuses, those weak and feeble and ill-gotten type of analysis that they've got that gives them the catalyst to recruit and to get people to do horrible things. And now we have the far right saying that, they're sort of bombing us, or they're stabbing us, or they're killing us, and it's time for payback. You see, violence breeds violence. Yeah. And I would hope that these people would reflect on their words, that they sound just like the words that ISIS come out with. They sound like the same words that these terrorists come out with, that you've killed our people, you've hurt our people, you've destroyed our land, and now we're coming back to give you payback. And this is exactly now what this person is now texting you. So that's why it's very, very sad that we just seem to be in this spiral of this endless, tit for tat, revenge leading to revenge. It's very, very sad.
I'm glad I let you respond to that text, because I might have said something more intemperate, but well done, Abbas. Thank you very much. Don't you just love it as a presenter when you can just let a caller go for like 2 or 3 minutes without intervening? I love doing that sometimes when it warrants it.